welcome to an apple a day with Dr. Amanda. I'm so glad you're here. So grab a chair, bring up maybe perhaps your favorite tea, a little snack, maybe an apple with some cinnamon sugar. And I hope that you like, share, and subscribe. So again, Apple a Day with Dr. Amanda is available on YouTube 5 days a week. It's also available once a week via podcast. So again, welcome audience. And I am delighted. This week, we're talking about building healthy parents. And really, I have some amazing mothers and fathers, and I'm so honored to have Nina Cruz with me today. And she is a stay-at-home mother and she of 2 children, and she also is a wife and amazing woman. So I've known Nina for years, and it's really amazing to see her journey and her love for children and passion for life. So welcome, Nina.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yes, I'm so glad you're here. So I wanted to just, I don't know if you want to share anything else about yourself. Otherwise, we'll continue into some questions.
Um, no, wait, we have 2 boys. So I
Okay.
think that might change a little bit of my perspective. So they're 3 and 1.
Mhm. Yeah, those are some energetic years and ages, right?
Yes,
To
they
be on
have a
your
lot of
toes.
energy.
Oh, that's amazing. What are some characteristics of a healthy mother?
I think a healthy mother is emotionally stable. And when I say that, I don't say it as like a final destination, but something that they're constantly working towards because everybody has ups and downs in their days. But I think always trying to center back and trying to be emotionally stable so that you can be stable for your children so that they can have emotional outbursts and be like, okay, well, mom has it together. And sometimes mom has good days and sometimes mom has bad days, but she's always constant for me. And I think that's really important. A healthy mother should be really loving and self aware. If you need something, ask for it. If you're having trouble, admit it. And I also think a healthy mother should be humble. So you're never too good to ask for help. And no one's ever going to be an expert mom. There's always something that you could do differently, always something you could do better. And there's always something that you could apologize to your children for. So that's what I think a healthy mother is.
That's great. Thank you so much for sharing. So I really appreciate how you said that you feel like being emotionally stable is an ongoing, right, continuum.
Mm-hmm.
You're constantly learning and growing and also showing your kids in humility, like, here's my really hard day and this is how I do it. This is my really great day and this is how I'm processing. And I
Right.
love that you brought that up, and really helping your kids see, how do I process emotions, right? What
Mm-hmm.
does that look like from my mom, right? And how does
Right.
she do that? And I think that's really important. So thank you.
Yeah.
What have you learned about yourself as a mom?
The biggest thing that I learned is I have trouble giving up control. So you get this baby and you're growing it inside you for 9 months and you control everything.
Mhm.
And then suddenly this baby is exposed to everything and you can't control it anymore. So I
Mhm.
feel like that was really eye-opening for me, just trying to focus on the things that I can control and just really giving up what I can't control at this point. Like sometimes they're not going to sleep well, and it's
Mhm.
nothing that I can do about that. Some days they'll eat like a bird, and some days they eat like voracious, just bottomless pits. There's just nothing that I can control. There's some things that I can help them with, but I can't control everything. And I feel like that was giving me a lot of anxiety in the beginning. Where I'm just like, oh, well, my kid's not eating. Like, he ate 3 blueberries yesterday, but today he only had half of one. Like, what did I do wrong? And a lot of that is just giving up the fact that you didn't do anything wrong.
Mhm.
They're learning to be people, they're learning what they like, what they don't like, when they want to sleep, when they don't want to sleep. So, a lot of it is just giving yourself grace in the fact that although you are in charge, you're not necessarily in control of everything. And that has to be okay.
Mhm. That's really powerful. And I appreciate you saying, well, when the kids were in the womb,
Yeah,
everything was in control, like, right? They were in there, they were safe. There was
right.
nothing that I had to do. And, I kind of had everything going. And then when they
Hmm.
came out, ooh, they're all over, right? There's energy.
Right.
There's, when they sleep, I can't control that, right? I can't control when they're going to cry or what's going to happen. And I think that's really powerful, probably for some mothers out there that have felt the same way, that they're not alone in
Hmm.
thinking that or having to navigate, oh, wow, these little ones have their own mind, right? They have their own
Yeah.
beings, they have their own way of doing things, and how to love them through that. That's really incredible.
Yeah.
And then what are some lessons that you have learned as a mom? And I guess I put the good, the bad, the ugly, but again, meaning just that vulnerability, and that again, it's really just lessons in our opportunities to keep growing.
Yeah, I don't think it's ever too late to give your child a sincere apology, and it's never too early either. I mean, I have a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, and like I was saying before, everyone has their good days and their bad days, and when you have a bad day, everything seems kind of bad, and all your reactions are already triggered on the fact that you're having a bad day. And sometimes you might yell, or you don't have enough patience, or you seem kind of snappy, or you're not giving the most thoughtful answers that you would want to give as your best self. So I think it's never too early or too late to apologize to your child. Hey, I didn't mean to yell at you. That wasn't right. I was feeling frustrated, but I shouldn't take out my frustration on you, or whatever the case may be. I'm sorry I didn't let you watch this when you wanted to, and it made you upset and I got upset. I think that's really important. And the reason that I think so is because, even now I'm 27, I still think back at some times where I'm like, wow, I wish my mom
Mm.
would have apologized for that. And it's like things that you don't even think about as a mom, that it's just like, I would just rather apologize for it and give them that space to say, hey, like what you did hurt me. Like, I didn't like that you did this. So I think that's really important, to be the first to apologize to your kids so that they feel like you're an open door. Like they can come to you for whatever, with whatever concern they might have, or something where they felt an injustice, but they can tell you that, hey, like this really hurt my feelings. And I think that really helps you become a better mother, but it also improves your relationship with your children into something that's going to be like foundational, that'll keep growing over time, instead of just building a weak foundation and having a shallow relationship with your child for the rest of your life. Because I don't think that's what any mom wants.
Right. Absolutely. And that's powerful. I really love how you talked about apologizing to your kids. And what I also particularly think is important is that you thought about your childhood, right? And you love
Yeah,
your parents, right? We honor our parents. We're not perfect, but it is so important. It is actually back to childhood, right? A lot of
right.
times that if we don't even realize like our perspective as kids, right? We have
Hmm.
these feelings and emotions are not wrong or right, but we may have perceived something about our family, right? And a word, and it's not ever a parent's intention, like you said, to be shallow, to really love,
Right.
we want to love our kids, but we're human, right? But I
Hmm.
love that you say, oh, I'm going to talk to my kids and I'm going to say, I'm sorry about XYZ, and have the students, your little kiddos express themselves to you and say, I felt. And I think that's so healthy because, again, sometimes we talk about cultural backgrounds, but I really think across different cultures, a lot of times we have a hard time as humans being very vulnerable about our feelings. I know it could vary across cultures. I don't know if you
Hmm.
agree, but a lot of
Yes.
times when I talk to people across all cultures, many people have the same things where you're told not to say anything or how you're feeling. And that looks different, but I think really, I've talked to people from all kinds of cultures, and I feel like there's a similar thing with that. And learning how to do that in a healthy way is really almost like a whole new skill to learn.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that, with the cultural aspect. I think, coming from my cultural background, kids were taught, don't talk back, or only talk when you're spoken to, or kids shouldn't say those kinds of things. And it's like, I think it can be a little detrimental to their development, because then they're like, oh, well, you only want to hear the good things that I have to say. What about the bad things? Like, what about the things that I might be scared to share with you? Maybe I shouldn't talk about them at all, and I should just suppress them. And what kinds of things come from that kind of suppression? Like, what are their relationships going to look like in the future? Are they only going to talk to their partners about the good things? Are they only going to talk to their kids about the good things? um, so I think it's important, let's just share all the feelings.
Yeah, that's really great. And I do agree that, what you've learned, you're able to change the trajectory, right, of your sons and being able to express how they're feeling now. And it impacts us as adults. So instead of them having to relearn those emotions, right, you started to teach them an incredible skill that I think as a society, we're
Yeah.
still really learning how to do it to that. And if you're in the audience, you're not sure how to do that, hopefully there's some tips today. You can see as, Nina has been navigating, right, and learning and continuing to learn, but also some of those things of saying how kids are feeling. And perhaps we didn't have that, but we're going to teach our kids how to express themselves. It's great. And then what was a painful moment in your motherhood that led to change in you?
Gosh, I'm gonna cry. Okay, so
Okay.
with my 3-year-old, when he was born, I made kind of the not a rash decision, but it wasn't thought out to stay home. And that had never been my plan. I'd always been very career driven and all those things, but something switched in me and I was just like, I just have to stay home with him. And so my husband and I were living in Virginia and we were far away from my family. And I started to develop postpartum depression. And I think a lot of it came from having a lack of support in like my immediate vicinity, where it was just like I was just day in and day out just being a mom all day. And I think we don't talk about postpartum depression enough, but it was something where I have a very like type A personality, very like perfectionist. So to me, it didn't seem like I had postpartum depression. It more seemed like I was not doing enough. And I think that's coming from that like perfectionist kind of attitude. I'm just like, well, I'm just not doing enough. Now, I don't think there's anything wrong with me. I'm just not doing things. And it really came to a peak when I had my second child, and he was about 3 months old, and we had gone to a restaurant with my in-laws. And my older son, he's always been really great about going out and being in public, like super well behaved. But the second child is just completely different. He's his own person. So he was being really fussy. And so everyone had just gotten their foods and he was just not having it, crying, yelling, wailing. So I walked out of the restaurant and I went into the parking garage and I'm trying to soothe him. And I feel like all that frustration and like just feeling unsupported, like nobody offered to help me with him. It was just like an assumption that you could do it. And I feel like that's really an unhelpful kind of thing that you hear a lot in motherhood, especially when you're new. Like you can do it. When in reality, it's really fine to ask for help and to accept it. But at that point, I had an intrusive thought. So I'm sitting there in the parking garage with my brand new baby, and I'm sorry, I'm crying. I'm standing there and I just have this thought that says, walk over to the ledge and drop him. And, I'd had thoughts like that before, but they were always like, oh, well, if you get in the car, you could get into a car crash. But this one was different because it was something, I know intrusive thoughts, they're not you. It's not what you mean to do. But it was so scary because even though immediately I was like, like I love my baby, I still walked over to the edge. And it was just something that it kind of clicked in me like, okay, you are not well. And if you don't get help, something terrible could happen to your baby, even if you don't mean to. So, I sobbed for months and I still cry about it. But that moment really led me to, go to my OB and be like, hey, like something's not right. And thankfully it did bring me to therapy and given me more tools to be able to combat that and really survive it. And I feel like that moment really made me advocate more for other moms that might not be willing to share, like you're having a hard time. It's not just baby blues. You're not crabby. You're not in a bad mood. You're not resentful. Like there's something wrong. And it's okay to ask for help. Like, and it's okay to admit that because it happens. It's not ideal, but you're not the only one. So
First of all, thank you so much. It's really hard, Nina, and brave of you to share, and it's really scary. And I'm sure you're not alone in feeling that way, or having those thoughts, and really bringing those up, right, can be scary. And yet you bravely knew that you needed something else and asking for help. And I just want to honor, that time that you had, because that's not easy. And I also want to say, as you were speaking, that you are free now to not
Yeah.
condemn yourself for that,
Thank you.
that you are that good mother. And even you sharing this means that you are, when we speak that out, and you sharing your story here, you're taking back the power, right, of what
Right.
happened, and saying, this is something that could happen to other people, and I want them to know that they can get help, right, like I did, and it was
Yeah.
so painful, like you can tell, but that you have now ownership over that, and you as a mom love your children. So I just want to honor that with you and let you know that you are, that is, you took back the power today,
Thank
and what a brave mom you are for sharing that story. And your heart of hearts was to take care of your children, and that was the truth. So I thank you for being brave to open up that space for women out there that may be going through this. And women, if you are having these thoughts or that postpartum depression, hopefully Nina's story and what happened with her, if you resonate, that you can get help, and that there's no shame. Like, there's a lot of times we have fear and shame, but that we break that shame off today, that you are amazing women and mothers, and your heart is for your kids. So if you get help, it's okay. And we all need help. So I hope that, if you heard in the audience. So again, thank you, Nina, because again, that is something deep, and painful that you were able to share.
thank you. I feel better.
Okay. Yeah, but that was, and I, I know that was heavy weight, right, for you to have to carry, but sometimes once you share it, and you're breaking that for other people, it often, right, is like that brick coming off our shoulders to be like, wow. Yeah.
Yeah, even like it was difficult to even share that with my husband because I feel like, a lot of times we have this stigma over mental health and what that looks like and what intrusive thoughts are, and the fact that you don't have any control over these thoughts. You just kind of want to take them captive once they come, but there's nothing really you can do to prevent them from coming because they're going to come. Like, it's fine, but I think being able to be vulnerable with someone and just say, hey, like, I need help, this is happening,
Yeah.
I really need some support, and I need to look into getting some professional help, is always good. There's no shame in that. There's no shame in doing something that'll make you a better person for yourself or that'll make you a better mother for your children.
Absolutely. And I love that you said that, because that's right. Because shame prevents us from getting the help that we need. And we all need help, right? There's not just one person or, oh, this person. It's all of us. We're
Right.
human beings, and we all need support systems, and we all go through things. And
Mhm.
thoughts like you're talking about, we don't talk about. That's actually something that down the road, that's a passion of mine too, because a lot of times we're so nervous where we talk about the very thing that we all face, even though we don't like to talk about it. And so I really appreciate your vulnerability once again for sharing on that. And again, I know that you perhaps have hit on some different things, but in terms of your own motherhood and style, have there been things that you have shifted or changed based? I know you talked about some childhood, but like some things that you do differently based on family patterns. And we all have that, right? Where we want to
Right.
continue to honor our family, but get better in where we're going.
I think for me, I tried to be very, I don't even know what the word is, very intentional in not making my child feel responsible for how I respond to something or what my emotions are. Like, I try not to say, it would make me really happy if you did this, or like, it's making me really sad that you're not playing nice with your brother, because my emotions are my responsibility. Like, they're not his responsibility. And I don't want him to feel like ever in life like, oh, I can't do this because it would make my mom upset, or like she wouldn't like to do this. I would like them to grow up and make decisions based on their morals and their values and not on people pleasing tendencies. And I feel like I had a lot of that growing up, but I also want them to be able to talk and be candid, you know, with us as their parents of what's going on with them day to day without fearing that reaction, like, oh, if I tell my mom this, she's going to freak out. Like, Or, if she does freak out, she's going to be mad at me, because like it's fine to have emotions and reactions, but like your kids shouldn't feel like you're going to hold it against them
Yeah.
because it made you upset. So I think that's something that Zach and I are really trying to implement in our family. Like, it's fine if I get upset. Like, I'm not mad at you. I'm upset with the situation and that this is happening to you, but like, I have no hard feelings for you. Like, I love you no matter what. And I think that's an important point to drive home, especially with toddlers, and they're kind of mischievous. But, reminding them every day, like, it's fine. I love you. It's okay. Like, I've forgiven you. You're still important. You're still valued. Like, nothing is going to make me love you less.
Yeah, and that's really important. I love that you talked about having them express their feelings and emotions and really learning how to do that, right? And say, okay, I'm feeling this way, but right, like that getting rid of people pleasing, which is can be, a very big thing to get rid of, and even that approval. But like you said, the morals, so you're teaching them and you're modeling, here's, good things, and talking about things at home, right? Things that we don't always talk about. So kids know this needs to be addressed early, right? So you're teaching your kids, you're saying, okay, this is why. And like, obviously they have to make their own choices, but you're teaching them, okay, I want you to always come to me, right? I don't want you to not come to me and feel like you're going to get punished or that, because a lot of things, I think if we could talk to our kids early, right? And we have that, we probably could break down a lot of those things that students, that shame and the confusion of like, who am I, right? As a kid,
Right.
as an adult, if we would just get to that early and
Yeah.
break that and talk to our kids that they have no shame in that. And they can say, this is how I'm feeling, so that we could really get that support, So I think what you're doing, and you said with you and your husband, that, that you're working on through that now, which is amazing.
Yeah.
You shared quite a bit and a lot of your journey, but what do you think your sons would say to you as a mother?
Well, Lucas is 3, so he's in that stage where he Zach had asked him one day, like, what do you want when you grow up? And he was like, I just want to have a wife. And he was like, well, I want mama to be my wife. And Zach was like, no, she's my wife. And he's just like, he doesn't quite understand why I can't be his wife. So I think he would say at this point, in his own words, that mama's my best girl.
Yeah.
So that's what I think, and that's what I try to remind myself whenever I think I've been too hard on them. They're always looking at me in a positive light, and Elliot might say that I'm the best at helping him to sleep. Nobody else will do, just mama. So it's fine to be needed, and just kind of remember that they always think the best of you.
Yeah.
Even when you think you're not doing great, they think you're the best.
That's amazing. Yes. So your son's best girl, right?
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's so sweet. And again, it also gives you perspective, right? That they think the world of you, right? Even in all the stuff. And it's just a reminder of who you are. That's amazing. And then again, thinking about mothers out there, I know you shared a lot of vulnerability. So perhaps a lot of moms out there are, right, listening in and appreciating this. But what would you say to some moms out there who, again, might be in those old patterns, right? Or maybe have traumas and pain that they don't know how to process. They've never learned how to express feelings and they don't know where to begin to change, but they want to be the best mom for their kids and they want change. They just don't know how to. What would you say to them?
I would say you are the best mom for your kids. Like, nobody is better than you to be the mother for your children. If there's something that you want to change, it doesn't have to happen overnight. It could be just small steps that can lead to a big change. If you want to pursue a different parenting method like gentle parenting, or you want to be more vocal on them using their emotions, I tried to flood my social media with people that kind of model those attributes so that I'm always seeing it. But not only that, but I'm also seeing different opportunities to implement that, especially with like sibling rivalry for us happens a lot, happens every day. But I'm constantly learning there are different ways to approach that. So for one instance would be, they're not sharing, they don't want to share. My immediate reaction would be share, be a good brother and share. But sometimes it could be helpful to say, just acknowledge the situation. Like, I see that you're upset that your brother doesn't want to share with you, but maybe you can play with something else and wait your turn. So you don't have to be perfect every time. If you do it at least once a day, and then next week try to do it 2 times a day. It doesn't have to be all or nothing. And if you fail one day or one week, it doesn't make you a bad mom. You can still keep trying.
It's really good. I like how you said, moms out there, you're the best mom, right? And you're doing
Mm-hmm.
what you can. And I love how you said, just take one step, right? One thing, one day at a time. And if it's not working, continue and just keep picking it up. And I think that's amazing, right? And give yourself a lot of grace
Yeah.
and not really be as hard on yourself because you're still learning. It's great. And then are there any resources, Nina, that you have found to be really helpful that you could share with the audience?
Okay, I have some books I have been reading through that I really love. The first one that I'm reading right now is Parenting by Paul David Tripp. And I think this one's really awesome. If you're a believer, it's 14 gospel principles that can radically change your family. And Zach and I have been reading through this book, and it's like completely flipped our perspective on what parenting really is. And it has taken back some of the kind of guilt and anxiety that we felt as parents and really redirected what our mission is ultimately as parents in raising children. So I really like this one. And I haven't started this one yet, but it's called Bringing Up Boys by Dr. James Dobson.
Mhm.
And I've read like 1 or 2 pages in it, but it's helpful to get the perspective in knowing like my boys aren't the only ones that behave this way. They're
Yeah.
normal. It's fine. And for my second child, The Strong-Willed Child by Dr. James Dobson as well
Mhm.
has been helpful in getting, different methods to kind of parent him the best that I can.
Mhm.
We're also going through the TechWise family in this crazy social media
Yeah.
epidemic, what to share, what not to share.
Yeah.
Um, so that's been helpful. And then I also have the 10 Habits of Happy Mothers. And
Mm.
this is by a pediatrician. Her name is Dr. Meg Meeker.
Okay.
And the last one that I have is Strong Mothers and Strong Sons by Dr. Meg Meeker as well. And I think, I don't think all these parenting books have all the answers, but
Mhm.
they give you perspective and they give you opportunities to try different things and just be a little more well read on some things that maybe you didn't have experience with. So it's always nice to read different experiences.
Yeah. Amazing. So thank you for all that plethora of resources that again for parents to look at. And again, like you said, it's not all the answers, but definitely gives answers and wisdom from the journey. That. So I will list that on the podcast. Thank you. And then finally and lastly, Nina, thinking about everything, you've given so much wisdom and just been so vulnerable and so honest, and so appreciate that. What's one final wisdom tip? It could be a word or phrase that you want to leave for mothers out there who are on this journey of building healthy connections with their children.
I would say ask for help without guilt and keep asking. You just keep asking. Don't feel like you're not doing enough by yourself. If you need help, just ask for it. No one's expecting you to do it all by yourself.
That's good. I like that. Ask for help, right? Without that guilt or shame. Ask for
Mm-hmm.
help if you need it. And that, right, not one of us can do things alone. Well, thank you, Nina, for your time. Again, audience, if you like this, which I'm sure I definitely learned a lot and really appreciate all these tips, but please like, share, subscribe, tell a friend. And again, if you want to hear Nina, we'll have the YouTube show. We'll also have a podcast. So you can hear that. That'll go out and I'll have the dates. And again, make sure you tune in for some more wisdom. We'll finalize our Building Healthy Mothers this week. And we hope that you're well, know that you're loved, you're amazing, you're incredible, just where you are, moms out there in audience, where, even if you're grandmas or if you're tuning in. And again, that we hope that you have a great week. So be well. And again, thank you so much for Nina for being here and take care, everybody.
Thank you.